Part 1. The door that should never open. It was supposed to be just another Friday night. At Riverside High, a prestigious private school nestled in the peaceful northern suburbs of Halifax, the end of the week meant two things: empty hallways and locked classrooms. The campus, with its ivy-covered brick buildings and neatly trimmed lawns, stood in stark contrast to the stories whispered behind students' backs. Stories about Room 6, the room no one ever talked about openly. Emma Holloway, a junior with a sharp mind and a thirst for the strange, had always been skeptical of such tales. Her mother, an alumna of the school, had once told her, "Some doors are better left closed, sweetie." But Emma was never one to leave a question unanswered, especially when it came to the unexplained. She ran a moderately successful YouTube channel called Hidden Truths, where she explored abandoned buildings, urban legends, and local mysteries. But nothing she'd covered yet had been quite as forbidden, or alluring, as Room 6 in Building A. According to the rumors passed between seniors during lunch or whispered behind textbooks, Room 6 had been sealed off since 1983. No student had entered it since. Teachers avoided mentioning it. Janitors wouldn't clean the hallway it was on. When asked, staff would only say, "Electrical issue, unsafe, off limits." But Emma had a plan. The team. By 9:45 p.m., Emma was crouched in the bushes behind the science wing, flashlight in one hand and her GoPro strapped to her chest. Her friends, Lucas, the tech-savvy prankster, Mia, the calm and intuitive observer, and Ryan, ever the skeptic, joined her one by one. "Are we seriously doing this?" Ryan whispered, adjusting his hoodie nervously. "I mean, trespassing is one thing, but—" "Relax," Emma interrupted. "We're just filming. In and out. 20 minutes max. I found the old floor plans online. Room 6 is right across the hall from the chemistry lab. Nobody goes there after hours." Lucas held up a worn brass key, still dusty from the school's storage archives. "And thanks to M's infiltration of the admin office, we have the key to our mystery kingdom." Mia frowned. "Why would they keep the key after all these years?" Emma shrugged. Maybe they didn't want to risk destroying the door in case someone ever needed access again. Or maybe they were too afraid to touch it. Silence. Lucas chuckled nervously. "You guys are creepy." They moved quickly, avoiding the few security cameras and slipping inside through a side entrance. The school was unnervingly quiet, the soft buzz of fluorescent lights the only sound. Building A was darker than the rest. The second floor, where Room 6 was located, felt colder, like stepping into a forgotten chapter of a long-closed book. The door Room 6 sat at the far end of the hallway. The door was made of old oak, reinforced with a rusted metal plate and a faded warning sign, "Do not enter. Electrical hazard." Emma's heart pounded as she reached for the lock. The brass key slid in with an unsettling ease, clicking open with a dull clunk. A wave of cold air drifted from the crack of the door. "Okay, we film, we look around, and we get out. No funny business," she said, pushing the door open. Inside, the classroom was frozen in time. Dust-coated desks lined the room in neat rows. The blackboard still bore faint chalk markings, including one jagged sentence scrawled in a rushed hand. "If you're reading this, it's too late." Lucas laughed. "Wow, subtle." Emma felt a chill crawl up her spine. Her camera lens caught something glinting on the teacher's desk, a ledger book. She walked over and opened it. Most of the pages were blank, but tucked between two pages was a folded slip of paper. On it, a message written in ink that had long faded to reddish-brown. "It wasn't an accident. It chose them." Mia stepped beside her. "This doesn't feel right." Before Emma could reply, the door slammed shut behind them. The shift. The room plunged into darkness. Lucas's flashlight flickered, then died. Ryan cursed under his breath. Emma grabbed her backup flashlight and clicked it on, only for the beam to stutter like a dying candle. A low hum filled the air, barely audible but pulsing, like a machine coming to life underground. Then came the whisper. At first, it was just a breath. Soft. Indistinct. Then a voice, clear and close, yet coming from nowhere. "You opened the door. You broke the seal." Ryan shouted, "Who's there?" No answer. The light from Emma's flashlight passed over the blackboard again, and this time the writing was gone. In its place was a crude drawing, 4 stick figures, one of them scratched out violently. Emma's hands trembled. She looked at her friends. "We need to go." Lucas was already pulling at the door, but the knob refused to budge. "It's locked," he whispered. "It locked from the outside." Suddenly, Mia dropped to her knees, clutching her head. "Make it stop!" she cried. "It's too loud!" None of them heard anything, and then Emma did. It was a voice, not from the room but from inside her. A voice that didn't belong to her own thoughts. A voice that hissed, coaxed, and demanded, "Give us the 4th." The panic. The lights snapped on, every bulb in the room flaring at once, bathing the group in a blinding white glow. The sudden burst of brightness disoriented them for a moment. When their eyes adjusted, they realized something was wrong. Ryan was gone. The 3 of them spun in place, searching. Under desks, behind the podium, even under the window blinds. But there was no trace of him. No footsteps, no scream, no sound, just gone. Lucas's face went pale. "This isn't a prank, right? He's not that good." Emma couldn't speak. Her eyes darted to the door. The lock was turning, slowly, from the outside. They backed away. Then silence again. The lock clicked. The door creaked open. Nothing stood on the other side. Part 2. The Ones Chosen. The door stood ajar. A cold draft wafted through the hallway beyond, sending the dust on the floor skittering like tiny insects. Emma, Lucas, and Mia stared at the opening, hearts pounding, unable to move. It was as though the room itself held them in place, not with force, but with fear so primal it bypassed logic. Ryan was gone. No scream, no scuffle, no explanation. Emma's flashlight flickered again, but this time she smacked it hard, and the beam steadied. She swept it across the room one more time, desperate to find any trace of her friend. Nothing. Just the empty desks, the cracked chalkboard, the stick figure drawing now updated. 2 of the 4 figures were scratched out. "What the hell is going on?" Lucas whispered. His voice cracked mid-sentence. He never sounded like this, not even during their more dangerous stunts. "Where is Ryan?" "I don't know," Emma muttered, jaw clenched. She looked at Mia, who was still on her knees, trembling. "Mia, can you hear me?" Mia raised her eyes. They were glassy, unfocused. "It's not a room," she whispered. "It's a mouth." The journal. Emma turned back toward the desk where she had found the ledger. Maybe there was more. Lucas grabbed her arm. "We need to leave, now." "Just a second. Something's here. Something's trying to tell us something." "What if it's trying to trick us?" Lucas hissed. Emma ignored him and rifled through the ledger again. She flipped the last few pages and found more notes written in uneven handwriting, as though whoever wrote them had been shaking with fear. 3 students in 83, gone in minutes. Mr. Langford saw it, said it took them from inside, tried to shut the door, but it opens by name. Room keeps the one who resists. Below that, you can't choose to leave. It chooses who goes next. Suddenly, Emma's flashlight dimmed, and Lucas's breath caught in his throat. Mia had started whispering again, but not in her own voice. The voice was too deep, too slow. It was chanting, The corridor that changed. Emma ran to the door and threw it open. Nothing stood there, just the dim hallway they'd come from. She turned and yelled, "Mia, Lucas, move!" Lucas hauled Mia up, her legs wobbling, and followed Emma into the hallway. For a moment, everything looked normal. But when Emma turned back to look down the hall, her stomach dropped. The hallway no longer ended at the stairwell. It just kept going. The walls stretched longer than physically possible, distorted like a reflection in a funhouse mirror. The lights overhead were flickering sequentially, one by one, in a pattern that felt like it was counting them down. Lucas stared in disbelief. That wasn't like that before, right? "No," Emma breathed. "It wasn't." Suddenly a sharp snap echoed from behind them. They turned, and the door to room 6 slammed shut on its own. The sound traveled like thunder down the endless corridor. And then came the footsteps. The footsteps. At first, they were slow, measured, like someone walking with intent. Then faster, heavier. Lucas grabbed Mia's hand and bolted. Emma ran beside them, but with every step the hallway seemed to stretch, like they were running in place, not gaining ground. The walls began to change. Posters once advertising student plays or science fairs were now covered in thick black smears. The floor was cracked tile now, hospital tile, and the lockers lining the corridor were rusted shut, their paint blistered and peeling. "This isn't real," Lucas panted. "This isn't real." Emma stopped short, turned to face the sound. Her breath hitched. A figure stood at the far end, just barely visible in the flickering light. It was wearing Ryan's hoodie, but the head wasn't his. Its proportions were wrong, stretched and angular, and it tilted slightly as it watched them. Emma blinked, and the figure was gone. The rules. "We have to go back," Emma said suddenly. Lucas turned, stunned. "Back? Are you insane?" "No, listen. This place, it shifted when we entered room 6. That's the source. That's the anchor. Whatever's happening, it's centered there. Running away is just stretching the trap." Lucas looked at Mia. She had stopped whispering, but now she was tracing something on the wall with her fingers. Emma leaned in. It was a pattern. An eye, perfectly drawn with her fingernail. "Mia?" Emma said gently. "What are you drawing?" Mia's lips barely moved. "It's watching from all sides. It doesn't want escape. It wants witnesses." Emma felt her blood run cold. Back to the room. The hallway groaned as they turned back. It fought them. The air grew heavier, like pushing through water. The lights flickered in protest. But when they reached room 6 again, the door was different. Now, it stood wide open. Inside, the room was rearranged. The desks had vanished. In their place was a circle drawn in what looked like ash or soot. In the center sat a chair, and on that chair was Ryan. He was unconscious, or so it seemed. "Mia, stay here," Emma said. "Lucas, with me." As they stepped into the room, the door slammed again, sealing Mia outside. She screamed and pounded from the hallway. "Damn it!" Lucas yelled. "Why does this door keep—" "Forget it," Emma barked. "Help me with Ryan." They reached the chair, but Ryan's eyes snapped open before they touched him. "Don't break the circle," he rasped. Emma froze. Ryan's body twitched. "It said if you break the circle, you take my place. Please, please don't step over it." Lucas leaned in. "Who said?" Ryan's voice trembled. "The one who built the room. It was never a classroom. It was a containment chamber. In 1983, they failed to reseal it. The only way to trap it again is for someone to stay inside." Emma's breath caught. Ryan looked at her. "It's choosing again. That's what it does. The choice. Emma stood there, staring at the circle of ash. The thing inside Ryan, or whatever was speaking through him, didn't want the circle broken. That meant it feared something. "Lucas," she whispered. "Back away. Slowly." "What are you doing?" "Trust me. Just go to the door." She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out the folded paper from the ledger. It said, "Room keeps the one who resists." What if the trick was that the door always required someone to resist, to feed it? She took a step closer to the circle. Ryan writhed. "No! You don't understand! It'll take you!" Emma stepped forward again and deliberately broke the circle. A burst of wind exploded outward, nearly knocking Lucas off his feet. And then, silence. Ryan slumped forward in the chair. Emma collapsed to her knees. Lucas stared, unsure what had happened. "Emma?" She was shaking, but conscious. And Ryan was breathing normally again. The ash on the ground was gone, and the door slowly creaked open, revealing Mia, standing unharmed. Aftermath. They didn't talk much on the way out. Somehow, the hallway had returned to normal. The exit doors opened without resistance. The outside world looked the same, smelled the same, but everything felt heavier. Emma kept thinking about the final words of the journal. It chooses who goes next. She broke the circle. She resisted. And somehow, it let them all go. But that night, as she lay awake in bed, her phone buzzed. No caller ID, just a message. "You were not the one we chose. You were the one who chose us." And then, her phone shut off permanently. Part 3. What Emma Saw. The nightmares began that very night. Emma lay in bed, paralyzed beneath the weight of something she couldn't name. Sleep came in fits, black flashes interrupted by flickers of light and disjointed images. The walls of room 6, Ryan's vacant eyes, the circle of ash exploding into the air like smoke escaping a bottle. And most of all, the thing she hadn't told the others she saw. Because in that moment, when she crossed the circle and everything seemed to stop, she hadn't blacked out. She had gone somewhere, and something had spoken to her. The hidden room. It didn't speak in words exactly, more like sensations, like a dream she could only feel with her bones. The room she entered was black, completely black, yet she could see her own body, glowing faintly, like it was illuminated from within. There were no walls, no floor, no ceiling, only eyes, thousands of them, hovering in the air like dust motes, blinking at random, studying her. Each blink sent soundless waves of pressure through her body, like she was being scanned piece by piece, and then a single, slow voice entered her mind. Calm, icy, unmistakably intelligent. She resists. She bleeds. She binds. Emma had opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. The room remembers. The seal breaks. One must remain. It felt like a message, but also a threat. And a warning. Then she had snapped back, screaming in Ryan's arms. At school, Emma hadn't returned to school since that night. Her parents believed her when she said she had the flu, but it wasn't illness that kept her inside. It was dread. Still, by Thursday, curiosity overcame fear. She texted Lucas. "Meet me at the library after 6. We need to look into Langford." Lucas responded right away. Already did some digging. "Meet you there." Langford's past. The library's records were older than anyone thought. Emma never paid attention to the town archives tucked away in the back behind the microfilm cabinet. She and Lucas flipped through file boxes until they found the name they were looking for. Mr. Douglas Langford. Faculty file, 1982 to 1984. Inside the folder were several typed evaluations, a faded staff photo, and at the bottom, a personal statement written by Langford himself. I cannot in good conscience continue teaching in room 6. I have filed multiple requests for relocation, citing the disturbances, the reports from students, and the physical damage that appears overnight. My classroom is not safe. On March 19th, 3 students disappeared after detention. I reported it immediately, but the investigation was closed with no resolution. I was told to forget, that I was under stress. But I saw what happened. It wasn't an accident. It was a response. Lucas looked at Emma. That's the day from the journal. Emma nodded. It's happening again. It picks its moments. And people. She suddenly remembered what Ryan had said inside room 6. It opens by name. The names. Emma's mind raced. She pulled out her phone and opened the Notes app. She typed the names. Emma, Lucas, Mia, Ryan. Then she remembered something. The ledger from the classroom had mentioned, "Room keeps the one who resists." She had been the one to step into the circle, to break the pattern. Lucas leaned in. You okay? She whispered, What if we weren't just there by chance? What do you mean? What if it called us, one of us at a time, through coincidence, through nudges? What if it wanted us there together? Lucas laughed nervously. You sound paranoid. Emma looked him dead in the eyes. You didn't just happen to stay behind that night. Ryan didn't just happen to suggest room 6. Mia didn't just find the stairs. She paused. And I didn't just see it. I heard it. Ryan's return. That night, Emma visited Ryan's house. His mom let her in reluctantly, said he hadn't spoken since coming home. Just sat in his room, quiet, staring at his closet door. Emma walked up the stairs slowly, each creak sounding louder than it should. She knocked once. No answer. She knocked again. Ryan, it's me. The door opened. He was pale, hollow-eyed, not sick, but scraped down to the bone by something unseen. You remember? Emma said softly. He nodded. Can we talk? He stepped aside. The mark. His room was dark. Only the light of a desk lamp flickered in the corner. Emma sat down on the bed. Ryan walked past her, lifted the hem of his shirt, and showed her his side. Her breath caught. There, carved into his skin in thin, blood-red lines, was the same eye symbol Mia had drawn on the wall. Ryan sat across from her. I didn't tell the others what happened when I blacked out. I saw a version of myself, talking, but wrong. Its voice was echoes, like 5 of me speaking at once. It said, You are the first hinge. The door begins with you. Emma stared at the eye. It marked you, she whispered. He looked up. It did more than that. The static tape. Ryan pulled something from his desk drawer, an old cassette tape, labeled simply March 19th, 1983, detention recording. My dad works in the district records office, Ryan said. I stole this from a box labeled Evidence Do Not Duplicate. I've been too scared to play it alone. Emma hesitated. Where's the player? Ryan pulled it from under the bed. He hit play. For a few seconds, nothing. Then a soft hum. Then, static. But beneath the static came whispers. Too many voices, overlapping, male and female, old and young. It was impossible to make out any one voice except Emma heard her own name. Emma. Faint. Then again, clearer. "Emma!" Ryan hit stop. They stared at each other. "That was recorded before we were born," he said. Emma stood, her legs trembling. "Then it's not picking us." "It's been waiting for us." The scratch. As she walked home that night, Emma felt an itch on her arm. She rolled up her sleeve, thinking it was a mosquito bite. But it wasn't. It was a fresh scratch, thin and red just below the shoulder. It wasn't random. It was the eye. Part 4. The history. Buried beneath. Emma didn't sleep that night. Her eyes stayed open long after the moon had risen, and she flinched at every creak of her old house. The symbol on her arm, that eye, now crusted over like an old wound, throbbed beneath her skin. The room had chosen Ryan first. Now it had touched her too. She was running out of time. The forgotten sub-basement. The next morning, she met Mia and Lucas behind the school just before dawn. "You said the floor cracked," Emma reminded Mia. Mia nodded. "It was quick, but I swear it felt like hollow ground, like something was beneath it." Lucas, armed with a flashlight and an old-school blueprint he'd printed from the archives, pointed to an odd rectangular shape tucked behind the main foundation line. "This is what I found. It's not labeled. No stairs leading to it, but it's directly under room 6. "A sub-basement?" Mia whispered. Emma nodded. "Or a sealed room." "Why would it be sealed?" Lucas asked. Emma looked at them both. "Because something's inside." Re-entry into room 6. They waited until dusk. Mia distracted the janitor while Lucas slipped the bolt on the side entrance. The school hallways glowed gold under the fading sun, eerie in their emptiness. The closer they got to room 6, the colder it became. Not the temperature. It was something else. A hollowing feeling, as though the room was sucking the heat out of their blood. Emma stood at the door, palms sweating. "You don't have to go in," Lucas said quietly. Emma didn't respond. She turned the handle and stepped inside. The room was exactly as they'd left it. Circle burned into the tiles, graffiti symbols smudged like ghosts. But the floor where Mia had noticed the crack, it had changed. It had widened. Emma dropped to her knees. With the beam of the flashlight, she saw it. Beneath the cracked tile, under a layer of rotted wood and dust, a metal latch. They pried it open. A hidden trapdoor. The descent. The iron door creaked like it hadn't been moved in decades. Beneath it, a set of stairs, old stone, descending into darkness. The air smelled of mildew and iron. But something else, too. Something older. Dead. They looked at one another. Then Lucas clicked on his flashlight and led the way. Step by step, they descended into the dark. The further down they went, the thicker the silence became. No sounds of wind or even their own footsteps. Just pressure. Finally, they reached the bottom. A corridor stretched ahead. The walls were lined with faded murals. Eyes again, but more detailed this time. Twisted, with spines curling out from the pupils, vines growing from sockets. At the end of the hallway, a door of bone. Literally. Skulls fused together, jaws agape, as if frozen in screams. Hands, or claws, formed the edges, reaching inward like they were pulling something closed. Emma reached for the handle. The moment her fingers touched it, the air around them rippled. A scream exploded in her mind. Not in her ears, inside her head. Like dozens of trapped voices, all gasping for help at once. She collapsed to her knees, clutching her head. Lucas grabbed her. "Emma?" "It's them," she choked. "They're still here." The room within the room. Mia pushed the door open. Inside was a chamber, circular, made of the same stone as the hallway, but scorched black. The floor was charred, cracked in a perfect spiral. and in the center, a wooden chair, old and rotting. Bound to it was a body, or what was left of one. The figure was desiccated, flesh pulled tight over bones. But most disturbing was the mask on its face, made of stitched skin, painted with the same eye symbol. Lucas stumbled back. What the hell is this place? Emma, weakly rising, moved closer. As she stepped inside the spiral, her symbol burned red-hot again. She winced, but the room responded. The torches embedded in the wall ignited, one by one, casting flickering shadows. And then the corpse in the chair moved. The teacher who never left its head jerked sideways with a crack. Emma screamed. Mia backed against the wall. Lucas froze. The stitched mask twitched, and then a voice rasped from beneath it. Dry, hollow, familiar. Room 6 was never meant to be reopened. Emma's breath caught. Mr. Langford? The corpse inclined its head. They didn't listen. I tried to contain it. The seal needed 3. It only had 1. Mia whimpered. What are you? I was the lock. Now I'm only the warning. Emma stepped forward. Why us? The corpse shook. Because you entered. Because you looked. Because the door wants to open. The torches flared. One must remain, or it spreads. The spiral on the ground began to glow. The spiral test. The 3 teens scrambled for the door, but it slammed shut behind them. A whisper filled the room, growing louder until it became a chant. She resists. She bleeds. She binds. One must remain. One must remain. The spiral glowed red. The corpse erupted in blue flame. Lucas screamed. What's happening? Emma fell to her knees inside the spiral. The pain in her arms seared, as if something were trying to be ripped from her. Visions poured into her mind. A memory of Langford standing in room 6, chalking the eye on the wall, chanting, bleeding from the nose. 3 students bound together in a circle. 1 breaks the circle. 2 vanish. Only the teacher remained. The sacrifice. The choice. Emma looked at Lucas and Mia. Her mind understood. Cold and horrifying. This is how it seals, she said. Every time it chooses a group, one has to stay, willingly. Mia was crying. Lucas was shaking his head. No. There has to be another way. Emma stepped back into the spiral. I saw it when I crossed the circle. The inside of the room. The eyes, the rules. One remains to close it, or it stays open forever. It needs blood. It needs a name. Lucas lunged for her. We're not leaving you! But Emma smiled. Not with joy. With peace. You're not choosing. I am. She whispered her full name into the spiral. Emma Grace Holloway. The seal. The flames rushed inward. The corpse collapsed into dust. The spiral turned black. And then, the door opened. Light shot upward, through the trapdoor, through room 6, blasting out the windows. Mia and Lucas screamed as they were flung backward, through the hallway, through the stairwell. The next thing they remembered, they were outside. It was daylight. Room 6 was boarded shut, but Emma was gone. Part 5. The Room That Remembers. The news reported it as a freak electrical surge, a localized power anomaly. No one was injured, they said. The students had been found outside, unconscious but stable. No structural damage was detected. Room 6? It was sealed. Again. But Emma was not found. No search team, no dogs, no cameras caught even a shadow of her leaving the building. She had simply vanished. 3 weeks later, Mia stared at the front door of the school, her reflection barely recognizable in the polished glass. Her once vibrant demeanor had dulled. She hadn't returned to class since the incident. Every night she dreamt of eyes, hundreds, blinking in sync, whispering in a language she almost understood. Lucas met her by the steps. "They're talking about tearing the building down," he muttered. "Too much bad press, too many rumors." Mia nodded but said nothing. They both knew why they were really there. Room 6 had taken Emma, and neither of them believed that was the end. Lucas pulled a folded piece of paper from his coat, the one Emma had scribbled her final thoughts on in the days before she vanished. She hadn't shown it to them directly. It had been found stuffed into her locker. On it was a symbol, one neither of them recognized. A spiral, yes, but this one had an eye at the center. Below it, 4 words: "The room still breathes." Strange occurrences. Despite the room being locked and reinforced, strange things began to happen around room 6. One teacher slipped and broke his arm just passing by it. A janitor suffered a seizure while cleaning the hallway. A substitute teacher, unaware of the room's history, tried the doorknob out of curiosity and collapsed immediately, bleeding from the ears. He never woke up. None of the incidents were explained. Mia began tracking them. She marked the dates, the times, even the weather. There was a pattern, faint but forming. Room 6 wasn't sealed. It was sleeping. And sometimes, it dreamed. Voices. Through the walls. One night, unable to sleep, Mia returned to the school alone. She climbed through a maintenance hatch she and Lucas had used once before. The building was quiet, deserted. She stood before room 6, trembling, heart pounding. Then she heard it, faint, like a whisper behind the wall. "Mia." Her name, Emma's voice. It wasn't her imagination. She pressed her ear to the wall. "Still here. So many voices. They don't stop. They watch." Mia reeled back, breath caught in her throat. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "Emma? Can you hear me?" There was silence, and then... The spiral wasn't the end. It was the beginning. You opened it further. You let it see you. Now it wants you back. Mia stumbled back down the hallway and didn't return for days. Lucas's revelation. Lucas, obsessed and sleepless, dove into town archives, even breaking into the old library basement. One stormy night he found it, buried in a locked file, a newspaper clipping from 1948. 3 students vanish in Old St. Luke's boarding school. Only teacher survives, mute with shock. St. Luke's, the name of the school before it became a public high school. The photo showed a much younger Mr. Langford standing in front of a burnt-out classroom, his face pale, his hand bandaged. Lucas read the article 3 times. There it was again. A room once used for ritual studies, part of a strange religious offshoot that operated secretly within the school. Room 6. It had a name before. The Binding Chamber. The Return. Mia and Lucas met one last time. They both knew what they had to do. "I think we didn't close it," Mia said. "Emma did what she thought would work, but we were part of the circle. We were touched, too." Lucas nodded. "Maybe it's not just about one staying. Maybe it's about the whole circle being complete." They went back to room 6. It had changed again. The boards over the door had splintered from the inside, dust coated the ground, and on the walls, fresh markings. 3 eyes, 3 spirals. The door creaked open. They stepped inside. The room 6 pulsed with heat. The walls moved, subtly, like breathing. The chalk circle Emma had once traced was gone, replaced with carved symbols etched directly into the floor. In the center, where the chair once was, stood a mirror. It showed nothing but black. Mia approached first. In the glass, her reflection smiled, though she wasn't. Then the reflection reached out. Mia gasped as something grabbed her wrist and pulled her into the mirror. She didn't scream. She vanished. Lucas lunged forward. MIA! He stared into the mirror. It showed only him now. Then, behind him, Emma. She looked at him with hollow eyes. Her lips didn't move, but her voice echoed in his head. You can't save us, but you can join us. The room began to quake. The final truth. Lucas understood then. The spiral, the eye, the sacrifice. It wasn't a prison. It was a feeding mechanism. It lured the curious, the brave, the selfless. It devoured them, one by one, and it remembered them. He should have run, but he didn't. He stepped toward the mirror. The last thing he saw was his own reflection, bleeding from the eyes, smiling too wide. Then, the mirror cracked. 1 year later, 6 no longer exists. The building was demolished. The ground was razed. A new school was built on the land. Fresh paint, bright windows, laughter in the halls. But in one wing, a janitor reports cold spots. A student falls and breaks her leg while walking past the art room. Teachers complain of strange dreams when they use the faculty lounge near the old west hallway. And in one storage closet, far from the rest, someone has drawn a spiral with an eye in the center. Underneath, 3 names: Emma, Mia, Lucas. The room remembers. And one day, it will open again.